Hi, I'm Nathan. I go by Peteparker, and every week I do comic book reviews because that's the rule at my house. If I want to keep buying them, I gotta keep reviewing them online. So this review is going to be for Carnage number 5 here, written by Zeb Wells, I think his name is. Yes, and the artist on this is Clayton Crane. Same artist on the cover that's in the book. So before we get into all that, let's talk about what happens in here. So if you've been following this story, this is 5 out of 5. This is the wrap-up of the Carnage miniseries where, what's his name? Cletus Cassidy, the original Carnage person, came back. He was recovered from orbit, and his symbiote was keeping him alive when he was ripped in half by the Sentry and orbiting the planet. So he was recovered, his symbiote was recovered, and this company was using his symbiote to create new technology loosely based on Tony Stark's technology, along with the symbiote involved, and they had started to create production models of these suits or whatever to try to sell them eventually. And what happens is they bring in Shriek, I believe. They have the symbiote separated from Carnage, more or less, or whatever's Cletus, and they have to make it mad to be able to pull pieces off of it and put them into suits. So they bring in Shriek, who was Carnage's wife in the Carnage Maximum Carnage series. Wife used loosely. They basically just hung out together and killed a bunch of people. And they use her to make it upset or whatever to make more production, and instead of that, it ends up breaking out and finding him and reattaching to him. And so as he breaks out with his lower half of his body is metal, which doesn't make any sense. He's like ripped right in the stomach, abdomen area, and somehow that entire half of his body is able to be reproduced or replaced with just metal, or, you know, techno-organic or whatever. It seems like a lot of vital organs that needed to be there wouldn't be there, but whatever, right? Anyway, he breaks out and he goes after the main guy who owns the company. I forget, Michael Hall, probably, something like that. And he wants to kill him for using his symbiote to try to make money or whatever. And when he just wants to kill him because he's a psychopath. And during this whole thing, part of the symbiote was used to recreate Shriek's doctor's arm, which she had lost in an injury. I think she lost it in the accident that when they took Shriek away from her. So they gave her an arm that had some symbiote in it that basically worked really well or whatever. And it tried to bond with her over and over, and eventually Shriek took it back, and you're joining the fight right here just as Iron Man and Spider-Man are fighting Carnage together, as Shriek is trying to help Carnage also. And right before this, the 5 or 6 suits that the company had created that are half Iron Man technology, half symbiote, Carnage was able to take them back over and basically killed the men on the inside and introduced those Iron Man suits and the symbiotes that were within them back into himself. And so he's gigantic and very dark. Here's a decent picture of him right here. Gigantic and dark, and he's got weapons in there and stuff, and he's got metal pieces. I don't think he uses the weapons at all, but in this, at one point in here, Tony Stark even tries to hack the systems in there, but the symbiote is too far integrated and tries to get back at him or whatever. Ultimately, what happens in this book, and this is the heavy spoiler thing, so you might want to skip ahead to the end where I give the rating or whatever, if you don't want to hear what happens. But the symbiote that attached to Shriek gets really scared by her wanting to make everybody kill each other. She emits kind of emotion powers that makes people go crazy or whatever, and she's just about to send a bunch of people onto a bus to rip apart a whole school bus full of kids, and the symbiote's all scared of her intensity and wants to come back to the doctor. And finally the doctor gives in, and the symbiote comes back to her, and she becomes a new Carnage-like bad guy, good guy called Scorn or whatever, and that turns the tides of the fight, and Scorn is able to use Shriek's Shriek to basically knock down Carnage, while Spider-Man and Iron Man beat him up and rip parts of his stuff off of his body to try to beat him or whatever. And then, in the end, Carnage ends up escaping. He just uses part of the symbiote to keep fighting Iron Man and Spider-Man while he escaped to go kill Michael Hall. That was his ultimate plan anyway. And this doctor is coming to grips with the fact that now she's like Venom, but she's a woman. And here's the best picture of her right here. You can kind of see like the really good picture of her face there. She's making shriek or whatever. But she's with it, and then that's pretty much the story. And they show you this right here. Coming soon, Carnage.
is not that huge. To put him down once and for all would be an issue. But they probably won't. So there you go. I'm going to give this probably a 3 out of 5. I almost say 4 out of 5 because you have an introduction of a new character. And that doesn't always happen at the end of a series like this, where you don't get to see them very much again. But I lean towards 3 out of 5 because it just didn't blow me away in general. And the artwork's a little bit washed out. You got, like I said, you got a little bit of stuff to put up with. As beautiful as it can be, it's just not as clear as it should be. So there you go, 5 out of 5 on the Carnage series, the mini-series. And that's it. So if you want to track my other reviews down, go ahead and check out my Spidey 207 page on YouTube, or you can look on the Marvel and DC databases. I post them up there and usually add content over there. And then there's also Comic Vine and iFanboy that also allow you to put comic book reviews up, so that's where they go. So feel free to leave me any comments anywhere or questions, and I'll do the best I can to answer them or agree or disagree with you. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.